Kevin claimed that in late April of 2013, he had gone over to Jeffrey's house just to see him and catch up. But instead, Jeffrey told him to stop over by their grandpa's house in Norton Shores. Their grandpa had already passed away at this point and had left the house to Jeffrey. So it was technically abandoned and nobody was living there. But Jeffrey was in charge of the upkeep and still spent a lot of time there. So Kevin claimed that Jeffrey told him that there would be women there and that it was going to be this big party, that they were going to have a foursome and it was going to be so fun. And look, I know that foursome isn't the big takeaway in this case, but I am a little bit icked out and grossed out that cousins are involved in a foursome with one another. I mean, gross, but anyway. So Kevin was like, heck yeah, I'll be there. I'm coming over. And Kevin claims that the exact date was April 27th, which if you recall, that was the day after Jessica went missing. So Kevin said that on that night, he went over to the house. And when he went down into the basement, he saw a very different scene than what he was promised. It wasn't some foursome with tons of girls and they were going to get their freak on. At the bottom of the basement stairs was a woman lying face down. Her hands were stretched out from her body and she was completely tied up. And the woman wasn't crying or panicking. In fact, her body was still. She was completely naked, but her face was facing the opposite direction of him, so all that he could see was her nude body and the back of her head. But then, there Jeffrey was, standing there next to her body, just proudly standing, almost as if he was waiting for Kevin to come down the stairs and congratulate him, to be like, look at, let me show you what I've done, and him be like, good work, great work, cousin, just standing there, bold and proud. And when Kevin asked him what was going on, Jeffrey's only response was, quote, and this is going to make you sick, it makes me sick, quote, I got some. It is so disgusting. Now, Kevin claimed that he knew that at that moment, this woman, who you can already guess was Jessica, wasn't just unconscious. He knew, without Jeffrey even telling him, that this woman was dead. He also noted that there was liquid coming from her head and that the color of her skin was very different than someone who was still alive. So this tells me that by the time that Kevin saw her, she had already probably been dead for quite some time. And this is just a guess, but the court documents really made it a huge point to note multiple times that her hands were straight out and away from her body. So maybe she was already in rigor mortis. I don't know, that's just a guess, it's not a fact. But now, seeing what Jeffrey had done, Kevin said he began to help hide the body. He claimed that they put Jessica's body on top of a sheet and then they wrapped her up, quote, like a taco. He also noted again that when they were wrapping her up, he saw body fluid, as the court documents describe it. And he saw this fluid coming from both her head and her rear end. Now, the court documents only used the terminology liquid and body fluid, so in my head, that could really be up for interpretation, meaning quite a few different things, but you interpret it however you see fit. So they then put her body in the back of Jeffrey's van, which already had a tarp laid down to keep any evidence from getting into the back of the vehicle. Then, Kevin says that they drove to an area where it was clear that Jeffrey had already been planning to bury the body. Kevin said that when they got to the location, a hole had already been dug. There were also 2 shovels there waiting for them. One for him and one for Jeffrey. Now, it seems like Jeffrey always knew that if he needed to hide a body, quite literally, his cousin Kevin would be the one to call because he didn't put up a fight. He just went along with it. And he knew that when he told Kevin to come over for a party and for some fun, that they would end up burying Jessica's body together.